10, 9, ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to the Alien Probe Podcast. I'm Doug.
And this is Dr. Bill.
Dr. Bill, how's it going?
Good.
Today we're going to be talking about the preliminary assessment of UAPs. And we're going to be talking about UFO crashes and retrievals in New Mexico in 45 through 48.
Yes.
The preliminary assessment was an updated version of the fun and games that came out. Was that in 21? 20, wasn't it? 20 or 21? So they, came out
21, it was last year, June 25th, 2021.
And then there was an additional, now this one came out in just now, March 21st in 2022 by a request by John Greenwald of Cassiac, California. Why does that name sound familiar? Do we have something going on down there?
Cassiac? No, I don't know. This, I think, report is the classified report that was given to Congress. We saw the shorter report that was released was the unclassified for the public. So this is the heavily redacted classified report that was given to Congress.
I'm looking through this thing. And it's really like, I'm not really seeing, I mean, they're still redacting. It's almost like the same as we've already seen, only they're not giving us did you see a lot more information here than we already know?
There was some interesting things here, and I did mark up some stuff. So a couple of the things. So this is the classified report, and they have the cover letter states that the parts that are redacted are according to Executive Order 13526, Section 14A, 14C, 14D, 14E, and 14G.
But
and those actually will sort of tell you a little bit about what they're redacting, because but
not specifically.
Not specifically,
I mean,
although
generally speaking, we're not going to talk about this or that, which is not much more than we knew before.
But what I was able to do was figure out which a couple of the little redacted spots were. So, because based on looking at the classification categories from the executive order.
Well, so, I mean, and generally stated in page 14, the UAP documented in this limited data set demonstrate an array of aerial behaviors, reinforcing the possibility there are multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations. Our analysis of the data supports the construct that if and when individual UAP incidents are resolved, they will fall into one of 5 potential explanatory categories. And I could go on, but I think you know where this is going. Nowhere.
Yeah. Well, on the first page on the scope and assumption, they blacked out one little tiny spot. And the classification is 14C, which says intelligent activities including covert action, intelligent sources, methods, or cryptology. And it looks like it's 3-letter agencies, and this block is before the DIA and the FBI. So what 3-letter agency, which would start with an A, B, or a C, could be involved in this that they might want to redact? So the CIA. So it's like, ooh, I figured one of the redactions out. And then
it started with A, C. Started with C.
You don't know. I mean, but it's these acronyms are these 3-letter agencies they put in here. It goes DIA, FBI, NRO, NGA, NSA. So it's alphabetical.
Yeah,
and it's an intelligence.
That before.
So it's CIA. But then they left the NSA unredacted, which is sort of interesting. But this is actually longer than the original report, although there's big parts that are blocked out.
Right. They just, I mean, various forms of sensors that register UAP generally operate correctly and capture enough real data to allow initial assessments, but some UAP may be attributable to sensor anomalies.
Yeah. So they
I mean,
well,
yeah, that's true, but I mean, we're not giving something. They're not giving anything. They're not giving.
Well, you got to you can do a little bit of interpretation of what you're getting out of this. There is more information, although they blacked out a lot of information. They say the limited amount of high-quality reporting on UAPs hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of UAPs.
What page are you on?
Page 3. There's page numbering at the bottom.
Okay, gotcha. I got it. The executive summary. Is it that page?
Yeah. I'm at
All
the
right.
executive summary.
Good.
They said that they appeared unusual flight characteristics, including several in which then it's redacted 14A, E, and G, which means that it was military. They redacted that because it's military plans, weapon systems, or operations. E is scientific, technologically, economic matters relating to national security, and vulnerabilities or capabilities of systems, installations, infrastructures, projects, plans, or protection services relating to national security. Flight characters, including several in which the whatever involving whatever again, these observations could be results of sensor error, spoofing, or observer misperceptions and require additional rigorous analysis. And then they say the UAPs clearly pose a safety flight issue, may pose challenges to U.S. national security. They are concerned UAP would also represent a national security challenge if they are foreign adversary collecting platforms or provide evidence a potential adversary has developed either a breakthrough or disruptive technology.
That was mentioned in the original document too. It's. I don't know if we're getting much more out of this document.
Yeah,
than we were.
I've been highlighting some points. So on the next page, available reporting largely inconclusive. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they at one case they identified a deflated balloon.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing they recognized through all this.
1A weapon system. 80 reports since alt observation. Well, this is, I don't know if this was in the earlier one. They said 144, 80 reports involved observation with multiple sensors, including whatever and whatever, which is military weapon systems operations. The remaining observed incidents were captured by something else. So this is important because if they're captured by multiple sensors, then it's not an instrument like an instrument failure of a particular instrument or whatever, an instrument error.
Right.
And then they were talking about, I don't know if the old report talked about Navy range fouler reports, which is when they're doing training and something interferes with the training.
Right.
Range fouler is an activity or object that interrupts pre-planned training or other military activity in a military operating area or restricted airspace.
Well, up at the top, I don't know if you know, well, up here you notice, but in very light writing it says, limited data leaves most UAP unexplained. Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah,
know.
I wonder
We don't
about-
have the tech. We just don't have the tech to figure anything out right now. Or we
Yeah.
do, and they're not telling us.
Well, yeah, that's the
I don't know.
unusual part is because these are, well, they talk about that. They address that and say that the instrumentation, we talked about this, the instrumentation is limited because it's designed for specific applications, and
Yeah.
that's detecting known type of craft or weapon
Right.
systems.
Well, you would think, because we think that which we'll be talking about in the segment included later. That one said that actual radar, I mean, that one's kind of a juicier thing with the New Mexico thing, where the radar actually crashed the flying saucers. Did you get that out of the other document?
Yeah, that's
The
also
Aztec document.
that was in the Aztec document. That's also in the. I started reading since we went nuts with this book, with buying a book. The UFO crash.
You've got a book that's worth a lot of money, so everybody should try to get their hands on it. I think you should at least pay $350 for this book. You can probably find it online.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we went nuts and we both bought this book. It's the UFO Crash at Aztec, a well-kept secret by William S. Steinman, contributions by Wendell C. Stevens. Only 1,000 copies of this book were produced. And
600-page hardcover, did you
625-page hardcover. And I was reading I have an interlibrary loan. I haven't received my expensive copy that I've purchased, but I got one through interlibrary loan. And in the preface, they mention the speculation that the UFOs were brought down by radar interference. And the idea is that the radar disrupted the UFO systems and caused them to crash, which apparently isn't, if this is true, isn't happening with the UAPs that the Navy is flying against. So
I mean, we're using a different technology for radar now than we used to. Maybe we need to go to the old technology and shoot them down. They're a different kind.
Well, I think
they're not soft. It's weird because they're saucers in the term that we always know, flying saucers. I believe. Well, in fact, they had a picture of one in the document we're going to go over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not a Tic Tac. It's a saucer.
Well, it's
weird because now all of a sudden it's Tic Tacs.
Well, they also there was an avocado shaped in the other document.
Yeah.
So coming back to this, the redacted classified report to Congress, they have here it's on page 5. It says, but some potential patterns do emerge. Although there are a wide variety of reports and the data set is currently too limited to allow for detailed trend or pattern analysis, there was some clustering of UAP observations regarding shape, size, and particularly propulsion. UAP sightings also tended to cluster around U.S. training and testing grounds, but we assess that this may be a result of a collection bias as a result of focused attention because of all the sensors operating.
Right.
And then they have
the most common shape described by military personnel in the reporting was and they blacked it out. Why?
Well, it says in 1A, Section 1A classification categories, it was blacked out as 1A4, all this stuff 1A4. So they said most commonly shape described by military personnel as reporting was a 1A, see figure 1, which we don't have. Military aviators describe many of these as 1A, 14A, objects as 14A or 14A, that 14A. Several sightings were 14A and resembled 14A shapes like a 14A or a 14A. And Section 14A classification categories says military plans, weapon systems, or operations. So I don't even know how that even applies to that.
It doesn't. It's just it's like they're randomly just it's stuff they don't want us the whoever to know. What they're not giving us. Again, they're not giving us anything.
Well, what if these shapes? What if these shapes are what they don't? And you see, they're not. What if these shapes are like flying saucer shapes? Or whatever.
Eggs or their
eggs,
whatever the hell they are. You can say it, can't you? It looked like this.
They can't. They don't seem to want to do that.
Yeah, they don't want to do anything. It's like what they've left open is more or less what we've seen already.
And then they said a handful of UAP appear to demonstrate advanced technology. In 18 of the described 21 reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics and it's blanked out, 1AG.
14A and G.
A is military plans, weapon systems, operations, and G is vulnerabilities or capabilities of systems, installation, infrastructure, projects, plans, or protection services relating to national security. All right, so I don't know what that means.
Telling us that information, it doesn't specifically apply to that category, no matter what it is, it seems. I don't know why they're doing it.
Oh, one of the good things about this classified report is they do have some specific. The unclassified report didn't have any specifics. In this report, there are some specifics, but they're not. They're heavily redacted.
Ambiguous. We don't really know any specifics.
Well, here they go. UAP. Some UAP appear to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems possessed radio frequency energy associated with UAP sightings as redacted. Although there are redacted recordings of radar displays suggested these UAP redacted. So you were going to say something?
I'm not. It's just not good. It's just more of the same. I'm just going to make a new document and plug in my own words, and we're not going to redact anything.
Just fix it.
This is what, I'm just going to redo it and then put it out there and say this is what they meant.
Just fix it.
But I'm going to fix it.
But this one's
figure out what they mean.
This is pretty good. It goes in redacted. A Navy pilot in a redacted in altitude. He noted the winds aloft were greater than something, and he was fighting to keep his aircraft in the airspace. Something was something, and its position was unaffected by the something. The pilot wind. We got to redact wind. The pilot blah blah. Blank object was blank. This a document then appeared to change course and speed, indicating blah blah blah. The task force holds a small amount of data that appear to show UAP demonstrating acceleration or a degree of signature management, which means radar jamming. However, this redacted. Additional rigorous analysis is needed. Determine if breakthrough. We conducted further analysis to determine if breakthrough technologies were demonstrated, but there's no information.
Yeah, you can tell us what it looked like. We could. I don't know. If the aircraft is secret, they're not going to tell us what it is. But who cares if it's a Raptor and then they saw it? If it was whatever jet. That they saw at whatever altitude, unless the altitude was extremely high for some reason.
Yeah.
And then, I just don't see, and they've got,
Gee.
They lack sufficient information in our data set to attribute incidents to particular explanations.
Yeah.
That sums up the whole report right there. They don't know. We don't know. We just don't know. It's not as fun as the Aztec story.
No, it's not. But what's this? This is actually, there's a couple more things that we should cover in this.
Okay.
We're almost done with this. But
that's fine.
One of the things they say here on page 8, this is, although we cannot definitively classify any UAP occurrences in our data set as caused by atmospheric phenomena, we cannot rule out the possibility that these factors may account for some of what pilots have observed. And I found this interesting because in the 50s and 60s, there's especially books by Menzel and things written by Klaus. These guys that were debunking, they spent a lot of time talking about how UFO sightings were atmospheric phenomena. So this report is specifically saying that what we are seeing is not. We can't say it's not atmospheric phenomena, but they can't.
It could be.
It could be. They're saying most of it. They're saying basically what my interpretation is. They're saying it's not atmospheric phenomena. We're seeing something. It's not atmospheric phenomena.
I like the paragraph in U, in section U, right? Oh,
you. They're all you.
2 U's. They're all you. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know why. Page 8.
Yeah.
And it has, if you look in the middle of page 8, it says, "We have," and that's the only thing in the sentence.
Yeah.
And a full paragraph redacted. And then it just says, "We have." Okay, well, what'd you have?
Well,
we have.
But then you get
What'd
down
we
to
do?
you get down. Yeah, I know. I have. Yeah. I go what? They could also be foreign adversary systems. Some UAP may be intelligent, collecting platforms developed by China, Russia, another nation, or non-government entity. It could also be a blank.
A huge paragraph, all blacked out.
Yeah.
But they do say, there is 2 words. They do say although, and then 5 lines down it says, in addition, we.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, we can get a lot out of that. They go, although, and then the next paragraph is, although most of the UAP described in our data set probably remain unidentified due to limited data or challenges to collection processes or analysis, we may require additional scientific knowledge to successfully collect on, analyze, and characterize some of them. We would group such objects in this category pending scientific advances that allow us to better understand them. That's a very science fiction-y paragraph.
Yes, if you're Galileo, that's what they're working on.
Yeah,
trying to figure out how we need to, even if we don't need to really shoot one down, or we just land, like we say, could be just drones. Might not be, although the next segment we're going to be talking about aliens.
Yes, and spaceships and stuff like that.
Not really aliens, but extraterrestrials. Probably should specify.
And then they do. The task force intends to focus additional analysis on a small number of cases where there are initial indications of a UAP appeared to display unusual flight characteristics or signature management.
Yeah, I mean, they threaten flight safety, like you talked about before, possibly national security. I mean,
that's a big deal. That's the big push. Well, there's hardly anything left on this to talk about, but the big push is flight safety is an issue, which is a concern. But it hasn't. I don't think any of our jets or anything have run into any of these things. Oh, they do have. They do. Yeah.
There's a good sentence. It says, "In blank, a pilot briefly observed," half a paragraph. And then it says, however, a blank.
Which page is that?
We are on page 9.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, I see it. Yeah. It says the task force has 11 reports of documented instances in which pilots reported near misses with UAPs. We currently lack data to determine any UAP are part of a foreign collection program or indicative of a major technological advancement by a potential adversary. Oh, and then
either we really know who this is or what it is, and we're not saying, or we just don't have the technology. I mean, there's stories out there that say extraterrestrials are in contact with governments, specifically Israel. It's kind of weird they
really
talked about Israel. Yeah, Israel. I've seen like Ancient Aliens, and I've seen articles where they've talked they're talking to the Israeli government, and it kind of. The reason with this, we don't want to get into a war segment, but, they're in the middle of this, kind of, in the middle being neutral. And it's kind of weird that if they were in touch with the extraterrestrials, maybe they're in some position to say, hey, this, whatever. Because they wanted to talk to Putin and, the president of Ukraine. And
the aliens.
Well, you would hope somebody would talk to them, because whoever's talking, Putin's not listening.
Yeah. Our president has now come out and said that he's willing to use nuclear weapons.
Oh, did they do it on the latest, what they just said?
It came out yesterday or something. I don't know what the current thing is.
He's willing to use nuclear weapons? That's a dangerous statement.
Yeah.
I don't want them to be using. They don't want to ruin
he might not have understood. He might not have understood the words that he was using. I mean, it's hard to tell.
I hope that's what he didn't understand. That's a nice statement to put out there, though. Well, okay, everybody arm up the nukes.
We're ready to go. Russians been going, we're going to use nukes, and now our president's going, we're going to use nukes too. We can out-nuke your nukes.
Meanwhile, you and I are like, okay, well, we're going to get roasted.
Don't
think they're going to limit it to the European theater.
I don't care. I don't care anymore.
I know you don't care. You're waiting for it. You want it to happen.
I don't care. My wife is reading apocalyptic fiction. She's on her third or fourth book,
What, just so she can know what to do when this happens?
I guess she's preparing herself psychologically for the Holocaust.
You're not going to dig a bomb shelter on your property?
No, yeah. If we dig down like a foot, we're going to hit water. Where am I going to put it?
You remember when I was? Were you? I knew you when we were up at Seaview on Castro Valley at the Hambleys. Well, you knew that Hambley,
Mrs. Hambley. They had a bomb shelter built in the 50s.
Bomb shelter. They had a bomb shelter in the backyard. That was crazy.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was cool. They never let us go into it because it was considered dangerous.
I was afraid we'd get stuck in there.
Yeah.
Where is he? I guess he just disappeared.
Yeah. But I always found that intriguing. That's the thing. Her husband was really concerned about nuclear war and had a bomb shelter put in.
I drove when I was in town for Steve's dad's service. I drove Debbie around to all the different places I lived, which took a while. But I went up there and I said, I'd really like to walk up that driveway and go in that backyard because there was no fence. And just see if that fucking bomb, because it was I could picture it right now exactly where it is. It's right off the back.
I think they filled it in because my brother ended up renting like the downstairs or something from Mrs. Hambley.
Yeah.
And
not the little house in the back, the downstairs where all the it smelled like a library, all the million National Geographics.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason he was living there for a while. And I don't know if it was a house. Did you live in the little house in the back or
was the little house in the back?
He might have been in the little house. And I think at some point the bomb shelter had been filled in. Because I was up there and I was like, "Oh, what happened to the bomb shelter?" And they're like, "Oh, they filled it in or something, or took out the doors and filled it in or something." So I don't think it's there anymore.
If I owned that house, well, there probably is a liability issue at some juncture.
You mean to maintain the bomb
well, you
shelter?
just lock it and don't go in it. I mean, it's just it was.
Well, there was water seeping in it and stuff. So I think there was an issue with keeping it dry,
maintained.
Yeah. So it wasn't. I don't think the concrete had been sealed properly or maintained, as you said. I mean, they needed to have a sump in there or something. I don't know. So anyway, then they talk about this report. They talk about using artificial intelligence to analyze the data, which they don't have much. That's it. Oh, and I guess the FBI is coordinating with the task force. The CIA is working with this program, although that was redacted, but you could figure it out. And another part is collection by intelligence disciplines. On page 14, there's a slight redaction which says a little tiny redaction, and the U.S. Navy have blank. And the only thing that could go in there is CIA or NSA, which would make sense because if it's happening in international waters, it would involve the CIA. So that sort of fills a lot of people's belief that the CIA is heavily involved with the UFO stuff. Well, and then they have this massive page on page 13 where they say, oh, this is figure 1. Observers frequently describe unidentified aerial phenomena as blank, which is 1A, which is military plans, weapon systems, operations, or blank, such as blank shaped objects.
They just can't give us the shape. I guess that's secret.
And then they go common shapes, and this whole thing is blacked out, and then less common, irregular shapes is blacked out. This would be the most coolest part of this report. Why are they blacking it out? Unless they're saucer shaped, and then it's like everybody poops their pants.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah.
It's real. It's getting real.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of people in groups and stuff have been wanting the truth. And this blacked out page may be it. We'll see. So I guess that's it for the release of the classified, heavily redacted report given to Congress on the assessment of UAP, 25 June 2021. Good stuff, fun stuff.
Let's move into something a little more fun.
This is fun.
If they tell me something, it'd be a lot more fun.
Oh yeah, on that. Well, we got a little bit. I think there's some the little tidbits. They do have more data than they've let us know, which of course we knew. It's funny because I was so surprised at that original report, which is like 8 pages long, and the government has put out 2 reports disputing the Roswell landing. Each one of those reports is 300 pages long. So it's like, and I've never seen a government agency release an 8-page report on anything. I think there's like a minimum 300-page requirement for any report released by the government.
Yeah.
So the shortness and the brevity of this report is what's so shocking.
All right. Nothing. All right. So we got 7 UFO crashes and retrievals in New Mexico, which is a lot more fun than that. And they're actually going to say something.
Yeah, and we always thought that there was Roswell. I mean, we've been reading about this stuff for the past year. And then there was Roswell, and then you read the old original Roswell book, and then you look at that and you go, oh, okay, so there's 2 crashes.
Yeah.
And then this guy, Chuck Wade, UFO.com, who grew up in this area where this stuff happened, says that there were 7 crashes in the area, this is actually, I don't know how you found this. This is actually pretty fascinating. This is a talk this guy gave at the 14th annual Aztec UFO Symposium, March 26, 2011.
Yeah, and he had parts of the material that they went to the crash sites and they, screened out a lot of the aluminum style, foil style material and had it analyzed. And
what's with the foil?
Yeah. So then first they sent it to one place to have it analyzed. They named it, said don't send it here because they found nothing. All they found was foil, and then
they said it looked like foil, and then
they said, well, you don't. It's the real material is sandwiched inside. If you a cross section of it, then cut it or break it or whatever, and then to properly analyze it, it was sent along, and then that's when
they did the cross section, and they said they saw carbon nano. Well, they saw carbon nanotubes, which have to be formed at specific temperatures and conditions. And they also saw interesting isotope ratios, which we just saw a talk by Gary Noland in one of his interviews. And he said one of the samples that he had gotten from that UFO explosion over the beach in Brazil had unusual isotope samples that weren't like the isotope samples you would normally find. And these things that this guy had found at I think it was a San Antonio site when they went out there and started digging around, had unusual isotope ratios in the materials that they found.
So basically, several other crashes, materials they found. One of their saucers was 100 feet in diameter that they pulled out of there.
Yeah, he said that he's documenting 7 crashes from 1945 to 1948, and they're all around, just south of Los Alamos.
Yeah, they're surrounding Los Alamos.
Well, actually, I'd say they're more like they're surrounding the Trinity site where the nuclear first nuclear bomb test happened. It's, if you look at his diagram, it's more like they're more surrounding that.
Yeah.
And he says there's the San Antonio site, the Barney Barnett site, an alternative site, Haut Corso site, Corona debris field, and the Jim Ragsdale site and the Aztec site, which we just bought we both spent a fortune on massive books.
Well, I mean, it begs the question if Putin's starting to talk about Putin and Biden.
Yeah.
I'll nuke you back.
I'll nuke you. I'll nuke my nukes, I'll nuke you before you nuke me. Don't tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And They probably launch a nuke with those hypersonic, nuke with a hypersonic missile attached to it.
Do we
but
have hypersonic missiles?
we don't.
We don't.
Not as of yet. Only China and Russia have them.
How could that happen? What are we spending our money, our $1 trillion a year on?
If you think about it, if that thing's real, obviously, because it looks like they launched one already. But you don't have to put any explosives in that. It would hit. You could put a steel pipe in it, and that thing would hit so freaking hard.
Oh yeah,
it would blow up at least a block.
Hey, one of the things that I was looking at some pictures of these hypersonic missiles. You know that drawing that JC drew?
Yeah,
it looks like a hypersonic missile. Except for the boxy part at the end, which could be scoops or something. But the shape of the whole thing looks like it's designed for very fast movement through the atmosphere.
It's interesting though, because his kind of was moving very slowly through the sky. It was like floating almost.
Yeah, but the shape is. When I went back and looked at the shape, it looks like a hypersonic missile.
Yeah, there could be something related. It's I don't know. But I mean, it begs the question though. If we are going back to everybody's talking about nuke, I mean, are the extraterrestrials or the drones, or because when we were messing around with ICBMs and stuff, remember there were cases where UFOs, they thought we were launching a nuke when it was just a test missile, and they did something with the missile, and they actually sent a beam into it or something like that, and then and blew up the missile. It didn't have for some reason.
Oh yeah, there was that. I know what you're talking about. There was that one launch where there was like a UFO around it or something. Yeah, I don't remember which one it was.
Are they going to get involved again and go, okay, but they're going to have their work cut out for them this time because everybody's going to be launching.
Yeah, I don't think they really care. They're just going to stand by it. They're just going to say we'll clean it up.
Well, they got to know there won't be anything left of the earth.
We'll clean it up.
We'll go back underground. We're into the ocean. We're under the ground. We're good. Let them do their thing up here, and then we'll come back out.
Yeah, we'll deal with it later.
They're not walking around up here anyway.
This is just crazy. This is absolutely crazy with the president.
It feels like a dream, or nightmare, I should say.
Yeah, I had an interesting. I was talking with my kid. He came by to do his laundry yesterday, and I was looking at some of this stuff, and I look at I look at our news. And then I was looking at, was translating and looking at Russian websites, news and stuff. And and everything's contradictory to each other and all this other stuff. And I was just thinking, I think the internet is designed to make you mentally ill.
Did he say that?
I said that. Oh. And then I told that to my kid. I said, I get this feeling that the internet is like designed, now it's designed to make you mentally ill. And he goes, I was talking to a friend of mine in his computer science class, and that was a topic of discussion. And he said that, and he goes, the speculation is, I think by the professor in the class, is that at some point, I don't know if websites or certain apps, I think they said that certain apps will have warnings like you see on cigarette packs. So before you use this app, especially like a social app, you will see a warning that says, caution, this app may be hazardous to your mental health.
Have you seen that? I haven't seen it.
No, they were saying
the flashing light one. Well, this could.
Yeah, but they were saying in this class, this was a speculation because they're saying that I think the social media stuff is very detrimental to people's mental well-being, and they think, at least in the discussion in this class, it was put forward that in the future we may see warnings when you start to use a social media app that say this. Yeah. But I was just, after I was looking at all these different, looking at websites from both sides of the Atlantic, and it's just, what do you believe? Everybody's telling their own story, their own propaganda. So
yeah, I mean, it's almost so they're just bombing the hell out of this country, and then I'm speculating that we may be using. I don't know if we're going to use nukes, but we're going to get involved. But we're waiting for as many refugees to get out as possible, so we have minimal civilian casualties. They just want to drain the country of people, and then we'll go in, and then all that's left is the Ukrainian and then the Russian soldiers.
I was just thinking, well, it's like Biden was talking to the 82nd Airborne, and he was like telling him that he told them that they were going in or something to Ukraine. So
have you heard of that show called Severance?
Oh, I watched a little bit of it. Yeah.
How far did you get? It is weird.
2 episodes, like 2 episodes. And I'm like,
It gets weirder. Oh, it gets. Robert's all into it, and he says it gets. What do you think? I mean, we can talk. I mean, it's like, are they in hell? It seems like they're in hell.
Oh, I don't know. No, I mean it's a science fiction techie story.
Yeah.
They're not in hell. It's a weird story though.
I talk about it. I told it to Deb. I go, I think they're in hell, and she says, "Oh, this isn't the Twilight Zone." I go, "This is exactly what the Twilight Zone is."
Yeah,
they believe that they're in their work area, they're in their work building, and then when they leave, they don't remember what they did in work. They just know they have to go back, and then when they're, they don't remember the other. It's like they're on 2 sides of a reality.
Yeah.
To an alternate reality, and it's bizarre. I mean, all the things that happen.
I got through this. I watched, I think, the 2nd episode, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to watch it anymore.
Was the red-headed girl, was she already introduced in there?
No.
There's a red-headed girl that's like a new hire.
Oh,
she is not.
Oh yeah, and she's like really angry.
Yeah,
or her alternate.
She hung herself in the elevator.
Oh,
spoiler alert!
Yeah, just ruined the thing. Alert. Yeah, I'm glad I stopped watching it.
I'm gonna finish it because I gotta know what the hell. I guess I could go to the last room, but I want to know what the hell this is all about.
I'm actually going to in June. I'm definitely going to get rid of Netflix, and I might get rid of HBO Max. And I'm not going to do any. I'm just going to limit it and just rent stuff through Amazon.
Yeah, we're down. We pay a ton of money for cable.
Yeah, I mean, with the money budgeted for these streaming services, I'm just going to budget it for, when something looks really good and it gets good reviews, and obviously it's worth watching, just rent it on the spot. Because the streaming service, Netflix, has just turned to crap. And HBO is decent, though.
I like HBO Max.
It's got some good stuff on it, so I might keep HBO Max. Originally, I was just going to... It's a competition between the two, and I'll get one or keep the other. But Netflix is definitely going. I'm sure about that, unless they up their game and start producing some decent stuff.
Yeah, I invested in them. I've put a few shares, bought a few shares, and of course it's.
I think it's a good investment. I don't think it's.
They're going into gaming. Their new thing is gaming. They're on stream gaming or whatever the hell it is. They buy the game and then administrate it. They buy.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's I don't do those, so I don't really know.
Facebook is essentially dead. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah. It's more and more people are like,
just bailing.
I think it's annoying. I mean, I'm on it, and
I look at it.
The podcast has got its own site and all that, and it's you put it out there.
It's going to be MySpace coming up.
What's going to replace it? But people aren't going to have.
My kid doesn't use
look at.
Do your kids use it? No,
not really.
No, my kid doesn't. So. My kid doesn't use it. Doesn't even. No, I think it's like Instagram. It's a generational thing. Bob, your Bob is like the last. He's the younger generation on Facebook.
Yeah, he's 40, and that's the youngest probably.
Yeah, I mean Facebook. It's on its way out. I don't know what my
Well, but what about Instagram? And
I think my kid uses that. I used to threaten him to say that I was going to join Instagram.
yeah, we've got.
And he's like, "No, you better not. You better not."
Like, so you could see what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm. I don't want to see what my kid's doing. I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to know either.
So,
but yeah, we're going to Instagram on the podcast and all that until it dies.
Well, Instagram and I think TikTok is the next
TikTok seems to be pretty big. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a generation. There's these generational things. So I don't know what even younger people are doing, but I'm pretty sure Facebook is on its way out. Except for old timers.
TikTok's interesting. I mean, they got the girls dancing around scantily clad, and they're not allowed to show anything. I mean,
I don't.
So it can be PG. I guess.
Yeah, I don't.
Hardly PG doing
that.
I
don't do it. I don't know it. What is it? What is the one where you can subscribe to women? I've seen reference to it. Anyway,
do you watch them make them do?
Well, there's like some. So I saw in the news where some woman is like selling her farts in a jar.
Oh yeah, and her underwear and stuff.
Yeah, it's like, and one woman who's really tall, she sells her leggings or something, or her leotards, and that's how she makes her living now. It's like, I forget what it's called. It's interesting and unusual. And hey, if you make a living at it, let's jump back into. I want to read the description of these 7 crashes here, since
let's do it.
Speculating about all this other crap. Okay, so he says this is Chuck Wade's presentation. He says the first UFO crash was at San Antonio, New Mexico in August 1945. This craft was 25 to 30 feet long and avocado-shaped. The second UFO crash happened the night of the 1st to 2nd July 1947 on the plains of San Augustine, New Mexico. This craft was 32 feet in diameter. The third UFO crash is being investigated by Chuck Zukowski and his sister Debbie Ziglemeyer. They are calling the site the Alternative Site, southwest of Roswell. I theorize this crash happened the night of July 4th, 1947, and could possibly have been 25-foot oval-shaped craft. The fourth UFO crash site is the Haute Corso site north of Roswell that occurred on the night of July 4th, 1947. This craft was 12 to 15 feet long, not quite as wide, and 6 feet tall. The fifth UFO site is the Corona debris field, located 75 miles northwest of Roswell and 40 miles southeast of my hometown, Corona, New Mexico. We do not know the size of the craft, but we do know that it scattered truckloads of debris at the Corona debris field. The sixth UFO crash site is the Jim Ragsdale site, located 53 miles west of Roswell in the foothills of the Capitan Mountains. This craft was 20 feet in diameter. The seventh UFO crash site is located in Hart Canyon, about 9 miles north of where we assembled for this meeting that he's presenting this talk in Aztec, New Mexico. The craft was 100 feet in diameter and completely intact.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Well, the smaller ones, I don't know if they had bodies in them, but they're big enough because they're short and they're 6 feet high. I guess they could put the smaller.
You could have a couple.
Extraterrestrial in there. I mean, but it seems like, or they could be drones.
Yep.
You know, and the other one could have been some sort of. If it was 100 feet, that's not quite mothership size, but certainly bigger than the 20 to 25 footers. You know, it's interesting.
Yeah, the 100. But this guy's story is fascinating because his dad ran the bar in Corona, New Mexico, and Mac Brazel, who's this rancher who saw something. Oh yeah, he said there was like a crash in his field. Oh, a UFO. And his sheep wouldn't cross the debris field to get to water. And
yeah, that is weird.
He kept wanting people to come out there and do something. and the people didn't want to do that. So it's corroborating evidence that something did happen out there at these sites.
Well, and all in a very short period. And so they surmise that it's the radar somehow.
Oh yeah,
interfered with.
Yeah, he's got a great diagram. There was high-powered radars, which were set around Los Alamos, and he speculated that the high-powered radar unit shot down several of the 7 UFOs. And speculation is that that shorted out their systems, the ship systems. That's a possibility. It's a good hypothesis. I mean, it's the big question is the original book on Roswell. The suggestion is that the ship crashed. The one or two that crashed at that event were brought down by a storm, which might not, it's sort of a weak argument, I think. But the idea that these powerful radar sites might have actually contributed to this is compelling and interesting. And in the book, which I started reading, the UFO crash at Aztec, they were saying that one of these early radar sites was put together, and it was too high powered, so it was doing something, so they had to shut it down, and they downgraded the power of these radars for some reason. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Well, as we get into that, more information. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully they can. It was just an accident. Probably, I'm sure they didn't know what they were doing with these radars. But I mean, as these things are falling out of the sky, you'd think one person in the military would say, put this all together back then and go, this is how we can take these things out. Well,
there was that movie that basically that's what they did, except they were using sonic blasters or something like that.
They used radar. It was like a radar, that black and white movie.
Yeah.
That old one. Yeah. It's like radar on a trailer, and that's what they used. They directed it right at the UFO, and then it started wobbling and then crashed.
Yeah. And it's quite possible that, a lot of this stuff, that might have been sort of something that filtered out into society or certain people, and then it got written into a story. And instead of radar, because the media that's too close to the truth. If the movie had put out and said radar was doing that and disrupting the ship, so what can they do? They do a sonic thing. So you can speculate that. I like this hypothesis that the radar brought down the UFOs. And then he said that multiple people sent him pictures of one of these crashes.
Yeah, they have one of the saucers in one of these pictures in the article.
Yeah.
That's allegedly. They got the picture of the crash site. They got a picture of one of the saucers.
Yeah.
That allegedly is real. But that's pretty crazy. So they couldn't recreate that to put on an aircraft and point it at a Tic Tac. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Hey, and what else do they have there? One of the things I liked here in this little article is he talks about it ties things together a little better, because you had these talks. There was these geologic survey people or something that were out at one of the site. He actually puts a name to the people that were there. He says there was this doctor saying he was not on the planes. Have to disclose the truth about their involvement in eyewitnesses. But it actually put a name to the people that were supposed to be in the area when one of these sites, there was like a bunch of graduate students or something at one of them, and there's a lot of confusion about what was going on with the Roswell crash. And I don't know, this seemed to help a little bit, because it's like more site. It's interesting. All these crash sites are around the Trinity nuclear site, which was, and that site was also surrounded by these radars, these high-powered radars. So I like the speculation on this.
Yeah, well, it should be interesting going through, and we're going to go through this, if it's interesting enough as we go through the book.
Well, we have a lot. We got the Roswell books, and we got the Aztec book, all 625 pages. We have the Corona book.
My sister's going to be disappointed. I don't like her when you go through the books.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't like
it. Gets boring.
She goes, yeah, it's kind of dry.
Yeah, well,
well, we'll break it up. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll try and figure something out. We'll get better as we progress in time. Yes, it's. I was thinking about something. There was the Maury Island.
Yeah.
And he mentions the Maury Island. We keep coming back to the Maury Island thing. The book that I just read, the debunking book, which wasn't really a debunking book. It's more like a history. There was very little debunking. But he added an extra sort of footnote to one of the guys. I don't remember his name, but the guy that was, not the guy that was on the boat, but his boss that was involved. And this guy also was connected to the JFK assassination. Yep.
They suspect he was one of the, transients.
The transients, on the track. So he in this book, Pebbles said the reason the guy went to Alaska was because he was in the Air Force Reserve and he was activated and given orders, which I thought was an interesting twist, because I think they were talking about Kenneth Arnold wanted to talk to the guy again, but then he just left town, that's an interesting coincidence that the guy. I just thought the guy flaked and left, which is what the implication is in these things that you read in the past. But in this book, which was written in the 90s, this guy says the guy he was activated in the reserves and sent to Alaska under orders.
Well, then the kid that was on the boat ended up in freaking Utah or something. It was actually struck by a piece of the debris. Well, we don't know if the boat crashing into the shore injured him or if a piece of debris hit him. He had a broken arm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But was there and witnessed the whole half dozen donuts in the sky that were dropping the fiery debris, for those who don't know the story in a nutshell. He ended up being a waiter or a cook in some small restaurant in Utah or Montana. There's no interview with this kid. No one talked to this kid.
How did you find out his information?
I can dig it up. I got it somewhere. I saw it somewhere as I was.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Maury Island. I mean, when you look online, there's a lot of Maury Island info.
Yeah, I'm sort of. It's the internet is this. The reason that we go into these boring books is because the internet is so much interpretive stuff, and there's some of the stuff's really good. I was going back and looking at the interview with Al Chop, who was the press officer at the Pentagon in the 1950s during early Project Blue Book. So there is really good information out there, but it's hard to sort everything out because there's so much information. And then you have a lot of people, like with this Aztec stuff, I think many people are just rewriting stuff from this book that we've just picked up, or that we're picking up.
Yeah, we need to, as you said, we'll go to the source more or less with Aztec, instead of, like you said, everybody's talking about making their own interpretation of the information that's in there. I mean, just skip all that and go to the source.
Yeah, it's a Xerox. It's like a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox, and you're just it just gets weaker and worse every time you copy it.
Yeah. And,
so we'll see.
Yeah, and every time we talk about it like that, you almost eyes glaze over. Yeah, it's like it's okay. I'd rather see what we're seeing here with this article.
This was a good article, 7 UFO Crashes. That's actually was an eye opener, and is extremely well done. I don't think we covered it as good as we could have, but 7 different crashes in this area. I was just it's like the that one UFO show, the J.J. Abrams one. They talked about one of these crashes. I don't even know which one they were talking about. It might have been the Aztec one. And they were interviewing people and said it flew into a cliff or something. And I've always been confused when you look at these UFO shows because they do a minimum amount of sort of correlation of data, and it just seems to confuse the matter. This is the first thing that I've read that sort of gives a nice overview of what possibly was happening in New Mexico in 1948.
It's well written. He seems to have his act together. The dates make sense. The locations make sense.
He grew up out there. He knows people personally, and that lived in the area. His dad was, a businessman in the area. Was asked by the rancher to go out and help him with the sheep, and his dad said, "No, call the Air Force."
Call the Air Force.
Call the Air Force. Okay, we're at an hour. We are at an hour. Let's wrap it up.
All right. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Probe Podcast. We welcome comments, questions, or requests to alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook at Alien Probe and alienprobe.net. Twitter at Alien, that's our website. Twitter at Alien Probe Pod. YouTube, Alien Probe Podcast. Thanks to our senior producer, Robert Anthony. Thanks again for joining us, Dr. Bill.
All right. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah.